Did you know a poor black woman from Mississippi once stood up to the most powerful people in the country and changed the direction of American politics? She wasn't rich. She didn't have a college degree. She didn't even finish grade school. But with courage, conviction, and a powerful voice, she shook the nation to its core. This is the untold story of Fannie Lou Hamer, a woman who was fired for trying to vote, beaten within inches of her life, and still rose to become one of the most influential figures of the civil rights movement. She challenged presidents, testified before Congress, and built a political movement that inspired generations. Stay with us, because this is more than history. This is legacy. If you love learning untold stories like this, hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. You're about to dive into a story of strength, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a woman who had nothing but gave everything. Here we tell in-depth biographies of black icons, the legends, the leaders, and the lesser-known heroes. We uncover the truths they lived, the struggles they faced, the wealth they built, and the families that stood beside them. And today, we're honoring the extraordinary life of Fannie Lou Hamer. Born on October 6, 1917, in Montgomery County, Mississippi, Fannie Lou Townsend was the youngest of 20 children in a family of sharecroppers. She grew up in poverty, working in the cotton fields alongside her parents from the age of 6. By 12, she had dropped out of school to support her family full-time. Life in the Jim Crow South was brutal. Her family was so poor, they sometimes had nothing to eat but grass or leftover scraps from the land they didn't own. But even as a child, Fannie Lou had a powerful voice and a fire in her soul. She once said, "I didn't know I was somebody until I walked into a room and they tried to make me feel like I wasn't." In 1962, at the age of 44, Fannie Lou Hamer attended a community meeting organized by SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. That meeting changed her life. For the first time, she learned that black people had the constitutional right to vote, not just in theory, but in practice. She was stunned. She'd lived her whole life under the belief that voting wasn't meant for people like her. She immediately volunteered to go and register. When she returned home, she was fired from her job. Her landlord told her to leave the plantation where she had lived and worked for most of her life. But she didn't back down. She had found her purpose, and there was no turning back. Soon after, she was arrested for trying to register voters and was viciously beaten by police in a Mississippi jail. 2 other prisoners were ordered to beat her while guards watched. The attack left her with permanent injuries, kidney damage, a blood clot in one eye, and lasting leg pain. She said, "They beat me till I was black and blue. They beat me till I screamed. But I didn't stop. I knew I had to keep going, and she did." In 1964, Fannie Lou co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, the MFDP, a bold, revolutionary political party that challenged the all-white Mississippi delegation at the Democratic National Convention. Their goal was to demand representation and expose the racial injustice built into the American political system. At the convention in Atlantic City, she gave one of the most powerful speeches in civil rights history. On national television, she described what it was like to try and vote as a black person in the South. The threats, the beatings, the fear, and the violence. Her voice trembled, but her words were fire. She said, "Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave? Where we have to sleep with our phones off the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings? President Lyndon B. Johnson, terrified of her impact, tried to block her from speaking. He called an emergency press conference to distract the media. But the truth couldn't be silenced. Her speech was aired later that evening, and it shook the nation. Though the Democratic Party refused to seat the MFDP that year, Fannie Lou Hamer had succeeded. She put the truth on the record. She forced the nation to confront its hypocrisy. And she inspired a new generation of activists. Her courage helped pave the way for the Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the most significant pieces of legislation in American history. But her work didn't stop at politics. Fannie Lou Hamer believed that real freedom meant more than just voting. She believed in land, in food, in ownership, and in dignity. In 1969, she launched the Freedom Farm Cooperative, a project designed to help poor Black families grow their own food, build economic independence, and escape the grip of poverty. With help from donations and partners, she bought hundreds of acres of land in Mississippi. Families who had nothing were suddenly able to plant, harvest, and feed themselves. It was more than charity. It was liberation. Through it all, she remained grounded in her faith. Fannie Lou Hamer was a devout Christian who used gospel music to inspire and unite people during marches and meetings. Her singing was as powerful as her speeches. Songs like "This Little Light of Mine" became rallying cries for justice. She sang them while being arrested. She sang them during protests. She sang them to remind everyone, including herself, that the light would never go out. Her personal life was marked by resilience. She married Perry Pap Hamer, and the two lived in Ruleville, Mississippi. They wanted children, but Fannie Lou was forcibly sterilized by a white doctor without her consent, a horrifying practice used to control Black women's bodies. Still, she became a mother to many. She adopted children and raised others as her own, always pouring love and strength into the next generation. If you're finding this story powerful so far, drop a like and let us know what you think below. Despite her national recognition, she lived modestly. No wealth, no fame, no luxury. She gave everything she had to the movement. Her home was simple, her lifestyle humble, her purpose clear. She once said, "When I liberate myself, I liberate others. If you don't speak out, ain't nobody going to speak for you." Fannie Lou Hamer ran for Congress in 1964 and lost. But the message was loud and clear. Black women had entered the arena, and they weren't going anywhere. She continued to work with civil rights organizations, speak at rallies, and organize grassroots efforts until her health began to decline in the late 1970s. She died on March 14, 1977, at the age of 59. But her legacy lives on. Fannie Lou Hamer didn't live like a celebrity. She didn't die rich. But what she left behind is more powerful than any fortune. Her courage, her leadership, and her voice transformed American democracy. She forced the country to see what it wanted to ignore. Her speeches are still studied in classrooms. Her work still inspires movements. Her name is still called in protests and marches today. And her message, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, still rings true. If this story moved you, share it. Talk about it. Keep her name alive. Because history isn't just about dates and laws. It's about the people who dared to make change. Like this video, subscribe for more untold stories of Black excellence, power, and purpose. Drop a comment and let us know who we should cover next. Fannie Lou Hamer once said, "Never forget where we came from and always praise the bridges that carried us over." Her voice was that bridge. And today, it still carries us forward. Her voice still carries us forward, not as an echo of the past, but as a call to action today. In every protest demanding justice, in every ballot cast against oppression, in every community garden feeding families, in every classroom where her story is finally told. Fannie Lou Hamer is still speaking. She showed us that power doesn't always wear a suit or sit behind a desk. Sometimes it wears worn shoes, carries bruises, and sings through the pain. She reminded us that even when the system is stacked against you, your voice can still shake it to its core. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't wait for perfect conditions. She acted, even when it meant risking her life. Because to her, silence was never an option. She believed that the truth, once spoken, could never be buried again. And she was right. The seeds she planted, in soil, in souls, in systems, are still growing. In every fight for equal access to the polls, in every battle against voter suppression, in every young organizer knocking on doors, you'll find her fingerprints. You'll hear her voice. Because when she said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for millions who had no microphone, no media, no moment. She gave them all a voice. And today, we carry that voice forward. So if you've ever been told you're too poor, too uneducated, too different, or too loud to make a difference, remember Fannie Lou Hamer. If you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or underestimated, remember Fannie Lou Hamer. She is proof that greatness has nothing to do with what you own, and everything to do with what you stand for. Let her story be a reminder that courage can come from anywhere. That one voice, raised in truth, is more powerful than 1,000 whispers of fear. Thank you for spending this time with us to honor her life, her work, and her legacy. If this story inspired you, don't let it stop here. Share it. Teach it. Live it. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that deserve to be heard. Like the video to help others find it. And drop a comment to tell us how Fannie Lou Hamer's life touched you, or who else you want us to feature next. Because history isn't finished. It's still being written by people like you. And if Fannie Lou Hamer taught us anything, it's this. You don't have to be famous to make history. You just have to refuse to be silent.